Pulling up notes. Feeling good, feeling good. Here we go. Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance. It is weekly scrap, number 90. Tonight's guest, we have Eric Wheaton. He is a second-generation firefighter from Winter Park, Florida, known as the owner of Vent InterSearch. He is an instructor of truck and special ops, teaches at Valencia College's Central Florida Fire Institute. He has taught at conferences across the country, as well as been involved with UL FSRI studies. I'm not going to lie, I've been looking forward to this one. So Eric Wheaton, welcome, my brother, to Weekly Scrap number 90.
Awesome. Hey, man, thanks for having me, bro. I'm stoked, so it'd be a good time. I love chatting fire.
Awesome. To everyone watching live, we're getting people logging in, getting it going. If you have questions, comments, anything you want to hear, do not hesitate to put them in the comments. I will throw them at Eric. I will answer them myself, whatever we got going on, and we will go from there. Did I miss anything in the intro? Anything you want to add that I was not clear on?
No, I think pretty solid.
Perfect. I like that answer. We'll kick it off right out the gate. I want to say to Eric Wheaton, if you can put it into words, what is your passion? Where did it come from? And how do you keep it fired up?
Yeah, no, that's a good intro. Definitely my family is a big passion. Those close to me understand that and how important they are to me. That's definitely my why, to get me through a lot of things in life. Like most guys are going to say, that's their big why. So family's a big thing. More bringing it back to the fire service, and anything really truck work related, and training. I'm big on the training side. I'm big on the truck work side. It just, it drives me, and, started at a young age. It was fun, we may dive into it, but, when I first got on the job, it wasn't all passion, all 100%. Although I'm typically somebody who's all in,
Right.
I don't really dabble my toes. I like to jump all in. It just, for the job, it took me a little bit longer than probably most things I got into, specifically like surfing and stuff, really, I started getting into the job, just because I wanted to surf more. It was
Right.
told to me that it was
I love
a
it.
lot of time off to travel to surf. So I was in, when I was 20 years old. So, but that obviously has changed now, and my priorities have changed. But.
Perfect. So you got in when you were 20.
Yeah, so I started fire school when I was 20, and I got hired at 21. I just turned 21 when I got hired.
Nice, very nice.
So I was fairly young. I could have started a couple years earlier, but like I said, I was into surfing and doing a lot of traveling, so that kind of kept me occupied. Again, that's the big reason why I got in and all that.
So I see the board behind you. You still surf?
Oh yeah, just obviously not as frequent. I got a 2.5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they keep me busy. I'm 10 minutes from the beach, and I still don't get out there as much as I used to and as I would like to. But hopefully in a few years that time will come again.
Right on. No, it's a good, yeah, no, definitely. Absolutely. Okay, so there we go. People are chiming in. Chris Weathersby said he is watching. Jacob Johnson said this is going to be great. Joey Hayes says game time. Garrett Towles telling us good evening, gentlemen. Jacob said truck work equals God's work. I'm not sure if I agree with that about the whole engine helpers, but I'm sure it's going to be a fun conversation. Dirk Janiak said truck work is what the engine does when there are no trucks. There's a lot of truth to that. So
yeah, that's not lying.
Vent InterSearch. Most people know Vent InterSearch. It's been around for a long time. So I remember finding it. I believe I just made drivers. So this was back pre-2010. And there was a post about a blog post maybe about what's in your pocket. What tools do you carry in your bunker gear? And I was infatuated with that. It changed. I ended up buying a tool pouch and putting all these wire cutters and weed whacker wire and all sorts of stuff in it. Anyway, it's great. But go ahead. Talk to me about Vent InterSearch, where it came from.
Yeah. So at that time, the website was about 5 years old. Started in 2005. Jim Walsh, which was ended up retiring out medically from our department. He started that website with an Orlando guy, Jeff Pond. So those two really spearheaded it and got off the ground. And basically it started as a place that firefighters around the country could come and communicate and share ideas. It was pre-social media. Really, it was, people claim it was the original kind of firefighter blog. I would have to agree. There may have been some other ones, but that's definitely the most well-known one that was around. And it basically, Jim and Jeff at the time wanted something, I guess before it went nationally, was just local. They were teaching at our local fire academy, and students would come up after class, and they did a ropes class, or they did a truck company class, and they were like, hey, where can we get some of this information or some supplemental information to take back to the firehouse? And there was really nothing available other than magazines. There's no online medium to do that. So that's where the idea basically came from. And then, of course, that kind of grew like wildfire, and then people from across the country, out of our little Central Florida bubble, started sharing ideas and getting ideas from the website, and then that kind of grew. And now, I mean, there's over a decade's worth of content in there.
Right.
I tell people all the time, there's a search feature, and you can go back in time and search. You said weed whacker string. What did we talk about with some weed whacker string? And literally, you search weed eater string on there, and it's probably going to come up with a few articles, if not videos, on why that's kind of handy to have in your pocket.
Yes.
So it's a awesome place. It's a good look back in time, and it was a cool start to the fire service kind of coming together in the online community, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. And it's really cool. Like you said, the whole search feature, has it, I don't know if you've done this or not, but has it stood the test of time when you've gone back and looked at some of the suggestions and things like that?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, and no, that's growth, right? So,
right.
What we thought was, a good tip or a good tactic or a good tool to have in your pocket, once you kind of grow and maybe get some experience or hear a different way of doing things.
Sure.
Then you're like, you look back and you're like, I wouldn't do that so much anymore.
Wouldn't republish that one right now as a new post.
Yeah. But then it's like, now you get the internet, and it's pretty easy to find a lot of these things, and you can see how other people are using, say, a tactic or a tip or something that was thrown on the website. And you're like, oh yeah, maybe it wasn't as successful in XYZ department. In my area, maybe it worked, but maybe not elsewhere. So, but that's just growth. That's human nature when we grow. So,
Absolutely. Well, it's just such a large body of work to still be intact and to be able to search. That's the cool part about it, man.
I mean, social media made it hard to kind of keep up with that, right? Because it's not that it's work, but it takes now you got to go to a website and kind of search for a certain topic, whereas on the social medias now it's a lot more rapid and easier to consume. So, but it's still there. Still archived if anybody wants to look back, and every once in a while we'll post something new, but we're busy with family life and stuff, it gets kind of difficult.
I can only imagine. You got to do the memories, the remember wins. Trey Brown says we're watching from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Trey Shaw said Canada in the house. And Dirk Yaniak or Janiak, you're gonna have to give me a phonetic spelling of that. Said Edmonton beat you to it. So, and Ontario. So we got a lot of Canada representing. All right.
Nice. Yeah, we were just in Spartanburg a couple months ago for a class. That's awesome.
Very nice. So let's talk about truck work.
Oh, yeah.
You ride a dedicated truck, correct?
Yes, sir. So we're a small department. We're 9 square miles. We border north end of downtown Orlando in Central Florida. And 3-station department. 3-engine company is a truck company. We call them rescues in the state of Florida. So anyone outside of Florida, if you hear a Florida fireman say rescue, they're more than likely talking about, unless they threw a heavy in front of there, they're talking about an ambulance with 2 firefighters on them.
Okay.
They're transporting units. Majority of Florida runs it that way. So we have 2 of those in the city, and then we have a chief and basically a captain that's, a safety officer, things like that on scenes, or forward command he could be used for. But so we started a dedicated truck company, I want to say in the when was it? It was before my time, mid-90s, and like a true dedicated truck. And for a small city, that around the country, that's kind of rare, right? So we started off with 3-person, and in early 2000, the city hired for the 4th person. So we run a dedicated 4-person truck.
Wow.
It is a dry truck. It's a tillered apparatus, a TDA. First one in the city's history. We're 121 years old this year, so fairly old city for Florida standards. And to have a dedicated truck on the department's pretty unique, and it works very well for us. Like I said, we're 9 square miles.
Right.
So we can get on scene with each other with 4 minutes, and everybody's on top of each other. So we kind of have it made where we can get a lot of people on scene quickly, where I don't have to make that decision as a company officer. Should I stretch a line, or should I start a search? Should I initiate a search first? Because everybody's on top, we're set up to have that dedicated truck and engine work. So we've gotten really good at splitting those jobs up. Nice. Where we're not, jack of all trades, master of none. We almost have specialists. And I'm not a big football guy. Like, any of my buddies watching is going to laugh at me that I'm referencing sports or football in general. I don't even know how they play on that court. I don't know. But anyways, I still kind of understand the concept. You're not going to take your and maybe I'm wrong, but you're not going to take your quarterback and have him kick a football for a field goal, right? So you have specialists, right? You have your quarterbacks, your running backs, your tight ends. Man, I'm really throwing some terms out here that people are going to be impressed with for me. But
did you research?
You have these, you have your specialists, and because our city allows that, and I realize not every department's going to allow that. But what happens is you get really good at that, and we still cross train, right? The truck will still pull lines and training and kind of understand that. But when you get on scene, it's like it's magic. Everybody just kind of goes in and does their job, and it helps with accountability for the company officer, right? Because now we don't have, if the first due engine shows up and they have to make that decision if they're going to start a search or pull a line, they have to basically communicate all that over the radio to keep that accountability with the commanding officer. Whereas for us, it's times we're going to call audibles and things like that. But, the truck's going to get out. We're going to split our team. The inside team's typically going to go to the front door unless it's heavily fortified or blocked by fire, and they're going to start a primary search, trying to locate that fire first and get into talking about communicating the engine next. But they're going to do some communication with the engine company at this point. And then the outside team is going to break away, and their first priority list is to initiate a search from the exterior. So, typically known as a VES or vent enter search, or a window initiated search, whatever spin anyone's,
want to puts on it.
Puts on it. It's search, from the outside, a targeted search, as in, they're going to target either, somebody pointing at a window, or they're going to read their building and know where the window's at. And then our engine company, our first due engine company, is going to pull a line typically to the front door, and they're going to stretch into that fire location. So you can see just by the first due engine and first due truck, we're covering major paths of egress. We're covering the fire room, and we're covering those high target bedroom areas with 2 companies on scene. And, it's nice because I don't have to make that decision, right? That's just going to happen. And then, of course, your second due is going to come in and either dump their tank or pull in a positive water source and things like that. Now, where our city is a little bit unique, we're just at that size where we can handle bread and butter fires by ourselves.
Right.
And we don't have to call any, automatic aid units into the city. So where that leads us as far as the truck goes is that we're the only truck in the city, right? So you'll hear me, I often say we're the only due truck, right? People write articles and have classes and things about first due truck operations, second due truck operations. Like, I don't have that. I have the only due, right?
Right.
So what we really have to focus on with our members is that decision-making process, especially that outside team.
Right. Because
the inside team, they're kind of they're laser focused on that primary search, again, typically from the front door. And our outside team has a lot of work, basically a checklist in their head that they need to accomplish and prioritize on the given fire or the building or what scenario is thrown at you. So we like to tell our members, if they're riding that outside spot, they're one of the driver spots of the tiller, is that you got to come off that rig thinking of VES. Life hazard is our top priority. I don't, pretty cliche to say, but I think we all understand that. So we want them to come off thinking that. Now, if it's an 800 square foot shotgun shack, and by the time these guys get their air packs on, because we have a tow truck, so they're not driving with their air packs on, so there is a slight delay. And if I can me and the engine can bang out the interior space quickly, then they may go on to pull and burglar bars or secondary egress or outside vent work. There's all those things that can happen, utility control. So that's kind of the truck work and the bubble that we work in our city, and kind of my experience level with a dedicated truck company in a small city, kind of an urban suburban, because we kind of border some urban areas. And it works very well for us, and it has for several years now.
That's awesome, man. No, the whole rundown. The dedicated specialist is just such a huge takeaway for me. Catching you up here. We got Dallas, Texas chiming in. Dry trucks are the only real trucks. That comes from Ryan Novak. We have Robert Ramirez saying, looking good, my brother. Looking forward to this one. Dude, did you really just use a sports reference? So, Eric Wheaton, big sports guy. Love it. That's from Trey Shaw. Go ahead.
Hey, what do you guys
I lost you for a second.
Me for?
Are you back? I think I'm
there.
You're back now.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, you're back. All right. Shane Bentley said the original canned confidence and tactics performed simultaneously versus sequentially. Nice to have the manpower for that. And so that kind of leads me to my question to you is my department, we cross staff. We have an engine and a ladder in the same house, and depending on the call and where it's at, we're jumping on one or the other. So we call it the Trengen, according to Kyle Ramagus, the ladder with the bladder, the insert, whatever you want to say. But how do you teach tactics and priorities and prioritization when you're dealing with that in the majority of America?
Yeah. So, that's, I always say, that's a very difficult thing. And I envy you guys, or don't envy you guys, I should say, to have to make those decisions,
Sure.
'cause that's not my wheelhouse. And, I can kind of throw opinions at it, but, and my thoughts of it, but that's not my experience with having to make those, typical decisions like that. So, yeah. And again, this is my opinion with not having that issue is that, you gotta kind of prioritize life. And if you think that is put the fire out before you remove the victims, because for whatever you're presented with, the fire needs to be taken care of now, or maybe you have to fight fire to get your way in, then that's the decision you make. If it's something where, the fire can be managed by some door control, or you have the immediate rescue needs to happen now, then I think that's I would assume that's a pretty easy decision that we would have to get in and initiate that search. And we had one run in a multi-family years ago. We ended up having two people pulled out of this apartment building, and we were responding in, and I was on an engine that day. We got floated out to our east side station, and we were on an engine. It was a fire alarm that came in, and for us, we send two engine companies, a truck company, and a battalion to every fire alarm in the city. And a city with 9 square miles, we run a boatload of fire alarms.
Right.
So they get pretty monotonous.
Sure.
But we actually use them as training.
Good.
They're good training for aerial work, for engine company, for rig placement, for communications, for running into the command. We get a lot of practice out of it. But anyways, we're going. First due runs emergency, so this happens to be that engine's first due. And we get on scene, and bam, we're smacked with people outside saying there's someone inside.
Nice.
So now we're ahead of the cavalry coming because they're all coming non-emergency. We were going emergency. So we did have a slight delay than what we would normally be used to. And, the officer made the decision. It was actually his first working fire as a promoted officer. And I was a fireman at the time.
There you go. The trial by fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He asked the engineer, "Hey, pull the line to the front, and Wheaton and I are going to go in and initiate a search." And that's what we decided to do. And we were successful in that call. But there was some a rarity in my city where we had to kind of make that decision just because of the AFA response we had
Sure.
coming. So
no, absolutely
difficult one.
No, definitely, man, and it sounds like you made the right one. So run me through your priorities on scene. Like when you pull up on a bread and butter, run me through how you approach it as Eric Wheaton.
Yeah, so typically when I get on scene as the company officer on our truck company, very rarely are we going to show up first due. If it's in my first due, we let the engine. The engine officer is going to laugh at me. He's a good friend of mine that I let the engine go first, but
right.
He likes to claim he pulls out first. But the goal is to get the engine out first because they're going to pull past, get their three sides. Our engine company is kind of a rarity in Florida too. We run all our pre-connects off the rear. So yes, you can have a 750-gallon water tank, maintain ISO class 1, every sticker you want on the side of your rig, and have low hose beds and everything off the rear. So that is a thing. But we run everything off the rear, so it sets those guys up for better success to pull off the rear, right? So they're going to pull past the building and basically afford a better stretch. The truck's typically going to take the front of the building or some sort of front corner of the building, even if it's a one-story house with a large tree canopy. We have a very low tree canopy where our aerial would never come out of the cradle. It's still a toolbox. Right? Our tiller truck has 490 cubic feet of storage space. So I want that toolbox by the front door. That's just my opinion. I know some may disagree if the aerial is not going to be used, but it works for us. Once I get out, I'm actually not going to perform my own 360. That may be a little odd to you all, but hear me out on this. The first due engine company officer is going to perform a 360. Our outside team is going to perform a 360 from the truck. Our medic units that are going to get out and initiate some sort of outside functions are going to do a 360. The captain is going to do a 360.
So you got you got a surplus of 360s going on.
I got a surplus of people getting to the rear, getting to the 360. Our thought process is
Charlie's covered.
Yes, Charlie's covered. Our thought process is somebody needs to get in there, initiate a search, find the fire, control the fire, and communicate to the engine where that fire is located. So that is my goal when I get off my rig. Is I basically want to beeline it to the front door, check the front door, force it. Maybe it's unlocked. Do a little dance with the front door, mask up quick. That's the key thing there. I typically come off the rig with my gloves already on, not masked up yet, but just gloves on. And then we're going to take the can in, and we're going to basically try to find that fire. And I can get updates of other people doing 360s. So the engine officer might say, hey, we have fire coming out the rear. Then I know I need to, book it towards the rear. I'm going to cover those major passive egress where we're finding lots of people, according to our surveys that we have. And then I'm going to find that fire. And let's just say it's a shotgun shack. So 900 square foot home. We'll keep it easy. One room going off, back left room. So I'm going to make it down the hallway. I'm going to find that one room going off. Our can man's going to take care of that.
You're going to dump the can?
Make a hit.
Okay.
Dump the can on that. They're going to maybe take a peek into the fire room if it's even possible, and then close that door. Now, I'm the only dude truck, right? So I can't just sit there in the hallway and watch him dance with this door. I need to physically do a search. So as a company officer on a 3-4 person rig, you have to do some work. So basically, if we're keeping with the shotgun style scenario, there should be a bedroom right across the hall. I'm going to yell at my man, hey, I'm going to dive in this room, and I'll do a hands-on search of the adjacent room. So before all that moving around, I have to communicate one thing, and I bypass the company officer, and I go straight to the engine company on the radio, and I'll say, Engine 61, your fire's located back left room. Whatever clear communications you guys decide you want to use, Alpha, Bravo, all that, I try to be as clear as possible. Second room on your left. The fire is where the can's at, because sometimes we'll dump the whole can and then search still has to happen. So we'll leave the can there.
Leave the can like a landmark. Right.
Exactly. There's your fire room. And I purposely bypassed the commanding officer, the battalion, because they're basically glorified listeners for us, right? They're not having to give out assignments. We have assignments that we train on, and that is written down in policy. And so he doesn't have to tell us what we're doing. And basically, by telling the engine company officer who needs to know right now where that fire is located, then the battalion on scene can say, check, I know where my fire is located.
Right.
It's in the BC corner, whatever, if we're using our imagination here. And so he's getting his he knows where his fire is located. He knows accountability. Hey, inside's in the back, Charlie side, perform a search. Engine's going to be stretching through the front door, and hopefully to put the fire out. No big deal. So the ultimate goal is basically to coordinate that engine so the stretch goes easy for them, right? So we knock on the engine, but I love the engine too.
I won't even go into it. Usually I like to knock on truckies, but it's only because we don't have truckies, so that's why. Now, something you said that really sparked my interest there was the BC out in the front yard. He's just a listener. And how important is training to make that a reality? Because I agree with you 100%,
Very.
Especially on a bread and butter. So
Very. And again, for the listeners, just realize I'm dealing with a 70-man department, 69-man department. All right. I'm not dealing with several hundreds or thousands of people. So the battalions know everybody's name, everybody's wife's name, everybody's kid's name. It's very personal. So it's very easy to learn each other's kind of ways of doing things. So just realize that we're kind of in that type of framework. So if your department's, can relate to that, then maybe, you could take something away. But, yeah, we train on that often. The battalions typically have a stopwatch without us knowing. So, we're doing a ladder or search drill or pulling some lines, you'll see the battalions over there timing. And it's not that they're timing us to have anything punitive on us. They're timing us to basically help them make decisions on the fire ground and seeing their people work. And then they know what companies are going to basically, maybe they'll push a little further than other companies because they've seen their skill sets and they've seen how fast or how slow a typical operation takes. So yeah, training's huge for that.
Just establishing that confidence in your competence and building that trust between the two.
Exactly. And again, it's just, training. Our department's huge on training. I mean, we train a lot, and it's a lot of quality training, in my opinion. And it's made me who I am today. It's the way our department trains and prioritize training.
So I don't want to. Well, actually, I want to hit. Let me write this down real quick.
Yeah.
So I don't lose this thought. Train your. All right, that's a really quick note with my Sharpie. But I want to hit these comments to you because Jeff Stone asked a question, which was, being a smaller department with one truck company, how do you choose the staffing for the truck company? Are the members dedicated to the truck, or do you rotate some of the crew in and out with your engine companies? Do you find advantages or disadvantages to your staffing model? And mainly I want to know if there's any disadvantages, but go ahead.
Yeah, so back before we had the tiller, so the tiller kind of changed things, right? So back before we had the tiller, there was probably a little bit more rotation that happened because we didn't have to have anybody with specialized driver training, right? Because obviously a tiller is not a straight frame when we're driving down the road. So there was a bit more rotation back there, and is why I actually found myself on the truck fairly early as just a 1 year firefighter. And because I was able to, float on there. And nowadays that we have the tiller, to really have an assignment on our truck is basically you have to become a tiller operator. And if you're a tiller operator in the department, which we only have, we try to maintain 5 per shift. So it's very selective on on who's on it. And there's a reason for all that. You're assigned to the truck. Now I have a firefighter with me. There's 2 firefighters with me that rotate that firefighter seat fairly often. And, so they'll ride the firefighter seat with me for a few shifts, and they'll maybe go, the engineer on the engine's off, so they'll go drive the engine. Then they'll ride the medic unit for a few rotations, and they'll kind of rotate back and forth like that. The reason why we went with 5 per shift to have the assignment was the fact that we needed the drivers to be able to maintain proficiency. And if you don't have a tiller department, I'll kind of explain this to you. Some may claim driving that tiller is like riding a bike, but if you go several months without driving that truck and you have an experienced driver in the front and you're in the back that day and it's been several months,
right?
You may have some little brain farts when that guy is booking it and you're not keeping up, and he's not communicating as much as he should because he's used to more senior tiller operator. So we wanted to avoid accidents from happening, so we limited the number of people assigned to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Tony Nunez, an 850 fireman, my man Tony, said, did I hear correctly, a tiller? If so, what does your tillerman do? Is his priority just the stick, or does he act as DE? Which you said he was OV, right? Or go ahead.
Yeah, so our tillerman is going to be their OV. So they're both going to be dedicated to VES. But if we're going to go down the list of priorities, so if they're not going to perform a VES, then they're going to separate their skills even more. And the driver, so the tractor driver, is going to be secondary egress, and the tillerman is going to be the OV. That would be the next, in my opinion, the next priority list. If search isn't going to be initiated from the outside, would be vent and secondary egress.
Nice. I'm going to try and hit you with this one. I don't know if it'll make enough sense. So we go, if you are asked to perform VES on the room above the fire, do you ladder the room directly above the fire, or do you ladder the next room? This is a situation that fire is blowing out the window, possibly compromising the ladder. Okay, so there you go. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, we get this question often, especially in classes. And again, we're right now, we're all in our heads what this scenario could play out, right? Sure. Is it just blowing, or is there fire blowing out, right? Obviously, I'm not going to be able to ladder and crawl across that without taking care of that fire. So maybe I can get somebody, the driver, to pull the bumper line to hit that from the outside to be able to, if I have to get up to that window, or we can just actually go to the adjacent bedroom and come down the hallway and come into that room. I mean, those are, again, it's probably what the answer they were probably thinking. But without kind of visually seeing something,
it's tough to visualize.
Those are tough to answer.
Right.
But I could tell you what we do, and this is another unique thing that our outside team does, and we call it where we break up our team, our outside team of 2 into 1 and 1. So we don't do a typical VES, typical in suburban setting or departments that are just now kind of buying off on the vendor search, which a lot of departments are now.
Right.
It used to be really cowboyish. I think we've gotten away where people in departments are assuming it's cowboyish and really starting to kind of grasp, okay.
Understand, it's a basic tactic now. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So what we can do, and which may help answer this question too, is we break up our members 1 and 1. So we don't have a typical BS where one person's in the room and there's the other outside team member on the tip of the ladder if it's a second floor BS. So I keep saying ladder because we get roped in. A BS has to be formed second floor. But either way, at the windowsill, looking at a 3x3 screen and a tick, me in a 12x12 room doing a search, we want to take that member that's at the tip of that ladder and throw them into another bedroom. And that way I'm covering 2 bedrooms at one time.
Nice.
So if I have that scenario where we have fire on the first floor and it's kind of impinging on that second floor and we need to get in that room, I can take my members and maybe I dive both of them in that one adjacent bedroom that's a little safer because the fire's not impinging on our ladder, and one stays at the hallway and kind of plays orientation guy, and then the other guy can go above that fire room and search there. That may be a way to do it. Or they can just basically ladder on either side of this first floor fire and dive in and do their one room and make it in the hallway together. So there's tons of kind of scenarios we could do. We typically like to split our guys up 1-on-1 like that and cover more ground. 2 questions in case they pop up, I know that, that people may be thinking this, is if I find a victim, isn't it nice to have somebody outside at the windowsill? And I always say, of course, but if you've ever done a window lift of a limp body, it's extremely difficult from the inside position as well. If I can't even get this person out of the window, I don't need that help yet, getting them from the top sill down the ladder out into the grass. So what we can do is, if Corley, you and me, we separate, we dive in, we're on the Charlie side, you dive into one bedroom, I dive in the next bedroom. You're in a room and you say you have a victim. You have victim. Well, I hear you, and I come across the hall, come down the hall, and now I can assist you with that lift. And what I want to do is I want to get that victim to the window, and I want to flop their airway out. Right. Especially if they're still breathing, we want to get that airway out below that windowsill. And I don't know about anybody else's fires. My fires have a lot of people standing outside, a lot. Even for a small city, we have a ton of people. Drivers, we have RIT teams, we have chiefs,
even white helmets. Captains, I was gonna say,
even white helmets. They would gladly run up to the window and be hero for the news by assisting in a removal. So we much rather have that person in there for that reason there alone. The other thing is that I'll get hit with is, what about accountability? Because now we're potentially working
solo.
One person. Now, think about this. Think about your own home. And I say this all the time, especially in classes, and I try to make stuff realistic as possible. Think of an average size home. My home right here is 1,700 square feet. It's a 4-bedroom, 2 baths. Each room is about 10 by 11, and it is stuffed with furniture. And trust me, I'm no hoarder. I'm a pretty clean freak. But you'll notice when you dive in these rooms, they're not like these training towers that we train in that have no furniture. They're cold concrete, and you're not sweeping in these huge open spaces. So these rooms get choked out, and you're really searching furniture. And by searching furniture, you actually clear the floor space. If you ever watch somebody search a furnished room of an average size room, if they just focus on the furniture, they're covering a lot of the floor space. And so, you're really choking these rooms out, and your egress is right there. Your egress is very close. And then what happens too is if you and I are on the Charlie side, we dive into separate rooms, and I come out first, and you're not coming out of your window, and I know you because we work together often, that man, Corley should be coming out of this room right now. Well, I'm going to run up to your window and say, hey, bro, what's going on? I'm in the master. I'm sweeping the tub right now, something. Or I got some hoarding conditions.
Sure.
All right, cool, man. I'm just going to go step my ladder up to the next window on, say, the Delta side. And then, yes, at that time, we want to make sure we maintain connection close to, or if not on the same side. Now, we will work on the corners away from each other, but we have our captain that's going to take Charlie side command and basically be our eyes. So we're afforded that as well. And it works well, man. We're able to flood these buildings with a lot of people.
Like search power, yeah. Flood it with search power. I like it.
Yep.
No, I like it. No, and it sounds like a well-oiled machine when you describe it like that, especially with the captain's accountability. I like it. Now, I got a question here coming at you from Lenny Morgante. Morgante, correct me. Let me know. But he said 20-man department here. What's your best advice for new firefighters doing VES?
Yeah, so is he like how to, or how to? I wonder if he's talking about like how to, or is he trying to sell it to his department?
I'll see if he clarifies. We'll sit here and wait. I'll read you a couple other things that people said. Training against time is phenomenal, especially for an IC to know the speed and efficiency of the personnel on each shift. Talking about your BCs. Trace Shaw said absolutely, replying, said those who can't micromanage, talking about BCs who have to constantly tell people what to do.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that real quick. Because it goes on, it goes back to us company officers, us drivers, and us firefighters. I always had the attitude as a young firefighter that I always wanted my BC to be like, I want Wheaton right now, right here, front and center. It's game time. I want him right now.
Yes.
And now that I'm, when you're a fireman, you're kind of worried about yourself, right? You live in your own little bubble. You can't really control much. All you can do is be a good fireman. obviously you can kind of, you can still mentor up and things like that. But now that in a company officer role, I have that same attitude, but for my company, right? So I want when it's game day, I want my battalion or any battalion that's working on our shift to be like, oh, it's Wheaton. Wheaton's there with truck 61 and his guys, and it's game time. And through training and running calls with these BCs, they're able to see that. And that's always been my attitude towards it.
Right
I just think that's always a good attitude to have, to basically sell yourself or sell your company to your instant commanders. So when it's game day, if you want to play, they're going to put you to work. And especially with these smaller departments that have, one truck company, couple engine companies, there's not much to choose from. So, stand out and get that, get the good jobs.
Absolutely. Lenny has chimed in and said, I would say how to and maybe common tricks of the trade to help out while performing. So more of the tactic side or the task side than the sell side.
Yeah. So, I think VS is a great limited staff tactic for search. One, because it technically only takes one person. I do realize, especially departments just now dabbling their toes in this tactic and allowing their members to train on it and perform it, they're going to want somebody at the windowsill, whether it be tip of the ladder or first floor. And that's totally fine. Just realize that's the second person that we could be performing a search and having that. So, again, if your department's going to just start to dabble into that, then I would probably go down the training route of having that member stay at the windowsill and maybe work yourselves up to where you build the department's confidence in everybody's skill level, and then start to maybe talking and training about splitting them up. Training's a huge benefit for a whole host of reasons, and one of them is just trusting and building trust and confidence in everybody. Because if you guys never drill, you don't know each other's abilities, and your people making decisions don't know your abilities. So, show it off. Like, your drill, and then, invite these white helmets that are going to come out and give them a radio. Say, hey, Chief, we're going to run a drill. Let's switch to a non-fireground tack here, and let's run a drill, and you run command for us, and we'll run the scenario out back. So, but yeah, so as far as, I got a little off subject there, but as far as like a how-to, I mean, it's just really, you got to be good at reading the buildings, reading the fire conditions, and then taking all that information and making a decision on where you're going to do your VES, right? So that's kind of the biggest decision you have to make, is prioritize that where. So, obviously targeting the bedrooms if you don't have anybody on scene pointing at a specific area, working closest to the fire but not too close. You have to be able to read fire behavior, right? So if I look at a window and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I dive in this window, it's going to light off. Like, I have no time. You have to kind of, you have to know fire behavior and all that. Unfortunately, I don't know if we can tell from the outside if a door is closed or not. That's something in this UL study that I'm interested about, that we just finished up here, that hopefully the report we'll be dropping soon is can we tell from the outside at all if an interior door is closed or not? And that's something that maybe, maybe not get answered, but that may help that decision.
No, absolutely, because we've always heard the half full window means, it's like an intake and an exhaust right there, and so you can infer from that,
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but just something interesting. But yeah, and coming off with your proper tools, masking up quick. I mean, these are all tips that they're things that you can drill on and work on alone and training a lot.
On a completely side note, I sometimes stay quiet because you had a really great tear you were going on there, and I recognize when there's going to be a great sound bite to be used, so I try not to interrupt you. And that's what I was writing.
Oh, no, you're good.
No.
You're good.
Rob Fisher said, as a BC, I am looking for those who want the work. This starts with me attending training. It should be mandated that BCs attend company-level training. And that's it right there, man.
I agree. And, of course, from Chief Fisher there,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Okay. Pulling my notes back up, getting to the next one, because I think we're on question number 3, just so you're aware of where we're at. Out of 13 that I wrote down.
No, you're good.
We got the can. I'm skipping the can. Search work. We've talked about search work. Tips and tricks you have picked up for practicing search. Anything you want to throw out there while we're still on tactics?
No. So search, one of the big things that I got through experience that I did not get in early on training was the searching of the furniture. And I'd like to dive down this a little bit. For anyone that's running you're an instructor at your academies, maybe you have a training company, or you're helping out at a conference. One of the biggest things we can do for our fire service members is make the house that we're training in or the building we're training in realistic. It is very big for us when we go and host or run a class for a specific department or a conference. We ask for a lot of furniture and more furniture than you need, because if you just tell them, I just need a couple couches or whatnot, then we'll never get enough. I like to have that furnished as much as possible. And why I like that is because it's realistic, but it really drives the way we show a search. And if I can focus on sweeping a bed and recognizing hard furniture versus soft furniture, checking this to understand when I need to search under a piece of furniture versus, hey, this is too low to the ground, I'm not going to waste time moving it. All those things. If you watch, you'll cover a lot of that floor space. And where these training scars come from, where we get these don't come off the wall or do these big, huge snow angel sweeps out into the middle of the floor, is you probably learn that in a concrete or metal training tower, training building with no furniture. And the instructor, when you're a rookie, basically said, if you came off the wall, you're going to die.
Right.
And here, by the way, use this 8-pound axe, or hell, they probably had a 6-pound axe, and swing it out in this open space or this Halligan with a sharp pike, and hope you feel something. Well, I don't know about you, but the tool doesn't have feeling. I don't know if you knew that. The tool doesn't have feeling. So how many times do you see people sweeping with a tool and they'll hit stuff? They'll hit maybe the mannequin or maybe furniture, but they never go out and investigate what they just hit, right? Because they're just arbitrarily sweeping in a bed space.
Exactly like they were trained, right? Yeah.
But I want everybody who's in their home right now to look around their own house and look at how much furniture you have in there and think about yourself laying on putting your foot on the wall and stretching out into open space. And adding a tool to that, there's probably a good chance you're going to hit the other wall or another piece of furniture. And in fact, I've tested this theory on several homes, but I've used my own home for my lecture that I do. And I actually took a picture of every single room in my house of me laying down, and I'm 6'4", so I am a little taller, and like I said, I either would hit the other wall, or I would move. If I moved, I would hit another piece of furniture. So we do a lot of this wasting our time of the snow angel sweeps in these concrete buildings.
Absolutely.
And they don't actually translate to a real home, real furnished home. Now, of course, there's vacants that are completely emptied of, furniture. Hell, I work in a city that's got, they're building a house right now. It's like 40,000 square feet. It's one of the largest homes in Florida. There's several homes in my area that are massive, that have those wide open spaces.
Sure.
But if you look at the average house fire in America, it's 2,000 square foot ranch, right? So it's a pretty average box size home. So that's a big thing. Not sweeping with a tool. Maybe kind of reconsider your getting on the belly and doing these angel sweeps. And practice searching furniture correctly. All right. Nice. So soft furniture I like to classify. I'm going to do nice big sweeps. If you feel some things, maybe fluff it up. If you feel like, a lot of material, so maybe, maybe there's a small child in there. So sweep from end to end. If you have very little space, do not move that couch or that bed. If you have enough space, to maybe sweep with your leg. Your leg's going to be a lot less profile than your torso that's got your air cylinder on, sure, which is much better than probing with a tool. Use your legs and sweep the underside of a high furniture. I actually did another test with my daughter at the time. She was 5. And I said, because people argue, they'll say, well, what if a small child's behind that couch? And I'm talking about couches. I'll tell them, like, no, the couch is flush against the wall. They're like, well, what if a small child moved it? So I took my 5-year-old daughter and I asked her to move my couch in my living room. She couldn't budge it at all. And then while this video is playing, I tell the people, I said, now her house is on fire and she's having to do this work while her house is on fire. So she moved the couch. Now while she's laying perfectly between the wall and the corner, the floor and the wall, she's going to have to pick that couch up and put it back on top of her. Right. She's not going to be able to do that. So there's too many negatives with moving furniture around. Right? There's a specific layout. Even hoarders have paths of travel. And if we just went in there and just destroy everything, we're going to screw our orientation up. We're going to possibly block doors. We're going to block victims, things like that. So furniture, as I went on this long tangent, it's a big thing for me. And it was a big learning thing that once I got from rookie school to out in the field that I learned. And please set your training up with furniture to make it realistic.
No, and the biggest, like just your little diatribe there was, I think about my own house that I'm sitting in right now, and there is not a single place in this entire house where I could put a foot on a wall and not need a tool to hit something, like have no range of motion. And it's not like I'm a clutter
tools will slow you down.
Yeah.
And searching with tools will slow you down. I would start to maybe argue with people about searching with tools, like start questioning that, not arguing, but questioning. Now, is that really practical? So, and there's reasons why I have that school of thought. But
are you saying not carrying a tool at all, or just using a tool as a search?
So I carry a tool.
Okay.
I'll preface that by saying that I carry a 5-foot hook. I'm 6'4", so for me, I carry a 5-foot Lockwood hook right now. And the firefighter is going to carry the water can. We're going to force the door and basically leave the irons at the front door. Every once in a while, I'll get a firefighter that wants to carry a tool with them. That's fine, just as long as they understand kind of my thought process on this. And if you watch training, and this is just coming from my experience, and then watching a lot of it. I have a lot of experience watching training, right, throughout the years of traveling and things. And I noticed that a ton of people, when you start to master vision and they're searching with a tool, one that's one less hand not filling furniture or the rare case we're sweeping out in these big rooms, they're glued to that tool. Typically, they don't have the wherewithal to leave the tool at the wall, come off the wall, sweep. There's a few people I've seen that are really good at that. John Lockwood's a good buddy of mine. He moves. If you ever want to see somebody move throughout a building, that dude's got it down. And he's very purposeful where he places his tool. What happens too is if you leave your tool in the hall to maybe go search a bedroom and you come out, if you don't have a place where you purposely put that tool, more than likely you're going to come out, you can't see, your mask is all fogged up, and you're looking for the tool.
Right.
And I found myself, I see this a lot, but where I kind of started questioning this is I found myself doing a search of a home, and I come out and I spend, it may be only 10 seconds, but I find myself doing this, looking for my tool. And it finally hit me, and I'm like, dude, I'm here doing a search for a human being. And right now I'm trying to look for a $200 Halligan bar. Like those seconds, I've just felt so guilty giving them away, searching for a tool rather than having my hands up and moving really fast along the building, right? So for me, and now as a company officer, again, I carry a 5-foot Lockwood hook, and my firefighter traditionally only has the water can once we break the threshold, and they're going to typically leave that water can there at the fire room. Every once in a while, if it's like first floor fire and we have to still search the second floor, they may bring the can up with them if they still have a little bit of water left for extension. But for the most part, they're going to leave it there. So they'll go to a full hands-on search after that fire is located.
Awesome. I'm going to throw some more questions at you, 'cause I got a few more.
Yeah.
And it's coming back to VES and stuff. So I'm getting here. I'm scrolling back up, guys. I promise you. What's your opinion when performing VS? Dive in and crawl straight to the door, assuming the door is across the window, or following the wall to find the door?
Yeah. So great question. Building construction.
And it was from Tommy McCarthy. I wanted to throw his name out there because he did throw the question.
Okay.
Go.
Cool. Now, yeah, great question, Tommy. So get this question a lot. We discuss it a lot. And if you're going to dive in, we'll get back to building construction. If you think about building construction, typically your bedroom windows are going to be in some orientation facing a doorway, right? So right now I'm outside. This is a kitchen window behind me, but I'm looking at my son is literally sleeping in this room right here, and I'm looking at his bedroom window, right? If I look at his bedroom window, I'm facing this side of my house. He has a corner bedroom. So I ask people, is his interior door going to be on the side that I'm diving in the window? No, because that's an exterior. Right? You guys can't see the room, so I'm trying to visualize this for you guys. But it's not going to be on that wall. It's a corner bedroom, so the other exterior wall protrudes out this way. I'm not going to dive in this window and go left because that's an exterior wall.
Right.
So that's left with two other walls. That's either straight across or to my right. Those are my two interior walls. So when you dive in, you need to head in that general direction, that corner direction. And when you dive in, if you don't hit a door in the corner, then you have to, if you haven't seen the rest of the house, maybe you have to make a decision, am I going to search to the left or search to the right for that door? So if you know that your hallway runs all the way to the back of the house, then you might want to search left because there might be the door that goes in the hallway. Or if you know there's no hallway and it ends on this wall here, then you're going to move right. But in fact, if you jump in my son's room right now, if you hit that corner, you're going to hit the door in the corner. Same thing with my daughter's room on the same side, and same thing with my bedroom right here. If you go through my bedroom window, my door is going to be in the corner of the walls there. The other thing is those bedroom doors are going to swing in, and they're going to swing in on the 90-degree wall typically. All right, people do some weird stuff, but on your 90-degree wall, so it's going to open to a 90-degree wall, not the 180-degree wall.
Right.
That kind of helps you see how yours goes.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't. The hinge isn't on the other side, right?
Right.
It doesn't open towards that bookshelf. It opens towards your flag, your
yes.
wall there, right? So that kind of helps steer you and where to go, and if you dove in a bedroom too, right? So if you happen to dive in a room and the door swings out, that might be some sort of storage room, or who knows, or it could be a bedroom that just they hung the door that way. So, but typically how your room is set up, very generally, but is common right there is how your door swings.
All right, I'm trying to find. Do you use ticks for search?
Typically not, and why I kind of like to say that is I feel like it's my fault that I don't, because I don't have the confidence in them, because I don't train enough with them.
Okay.
I'm more of a hands-on searcher, and that could be just because I spent before I got promoted company officer, I was doing a hands-on search for what I have on. I think I had 12 years on when I got promoted company officer. For 12 years, I've searched with my hands, and it just really works well for me. And, having to wipe my face, wipe the tick screen with the moisture, and just, I like to be hands-free. So when I use the tick though, when we make entry that first time we pop the door to go through the front door, I will use the tick there. And then every once in a while, if I send a firefighter into a room and I've swept behind the door because I have other jobs than just watching them through a tick, I send a firefighter through the door. I'm going to check behind the door. I'm going to search out into what I call the future. So if the hallway is continuing down, I'll do a hands-on sweep, just hit the door frame there where that searcher is.
Sure.
And I'll sweep in the furniture, down in the future or adjacent room. If I've done all that and they're still not done, then I may glance at the tick into the room and just, kind of get their whereabouts, and, maybe, hey, maybe I noticed there's a bathroom in there. Hey, did you check the bathroom, check behind the bed, stuff like that. So
no, that's
probably,
fair.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't train enough on it, so I don't have enough confidence in it. So.
All right, that's an honest answer. I can't ask for anything more than that, and that's what they asked for. So there you go. I'm seeing if I'm missing any great questions here. He's cool with leaving tools at the point of entry. Yes. David Woodward said, I'm generally impressed with the people of Vent Enter Search. There we go. Rob Fisher asked Jody Fisher what she was doing in here. Tool goes against the wall outside the room. There we go. Know the buildings in your district 100%. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. Good stuff. Okay, I'm moving on. Grabbing my notes up here. We're all caught up. I want to hit you with switching gears and moving to one of my favorite topics, which is fire service culture. And you've been teaching for a while. And so is there a shift running through the fire service? Where are we at, according to Eric Wheaton?
Yeah, so I'll give you my experience with that. And I know I'll relate to a lot of people that either listening live or future here, but I got beat down bad when I was young into the job. And thank God for fire conferences, because if it wasn't for fire conferences, I don't think I would be here talking to you about anything, because I probably would have just been that surfer bum that really wanted a job to have, 2 days off to go surf, right? And in my department, we have a very good retention. The last person to leave us was 16 years ago now for another fire department. We've had some people leave to become realtors and things like that. But to leave us to go to another fire department has been 16 years, 15 or 16 years. For a small department, especially with some major departments surrounding us, that's a pretty cool thing. But what that creates is huge generational gaps. So when I got hired, the next youngest person to me had was 10 years older than me and had 11 years on the job.
Yeah.
On my shift. And for some reason, those 80s and 90s babies, they're not, career babies, they had the thing, and the culture in my department was, it wasn't cool to be into the job.
Right.
If,
No, 100%. I know that
job,
feeling.
The overwhelming majority, and my dad is this generation, right? And they would beat anybody down that enjoyed the job. There's a couple guys, of course, that you could talk to about it. But when I started to get into it, the first couple years of me being there, I would read a magazine out in the bay and hide it, because there wasn't really a big social media presence yet. They were starting to be, but I'd read a magazine, or maybe have I don't even think I had a phone where you can go to the internet, so probably on the work computer there.
Right.
But if someone walked by, I would close it or shut down my computer real quick, right? Because I was, I didn't want them to
be
make fun
caught.
of me.
Yeah, being one of those guys.
Yeah, right. So then I went to Orlando Fire Conference and started getting a little taste of all that. And I met some of these guys now that are friends and huge mentors, and they're very well known in the fire service. And those guys basically gave me a little spark. And I would come back and I would get beat down with, say, a forcible entry trick that I learned from Mike Champo. And they'd be like, who the hell are you? What are you teaching me about forcible entry?
Right.
And I said, I'm just the messenger, dude. I just learned it from some guy from New York, and I guarantee you he knows what he's doing, right? And it was one of, what's that saying where it's 10% pressure, 100% time? Or
Rob Fisher, man, he's in here tonight.
Yeah, Rob Fisher, right? Yeah, so I picked that up one of the CFD conferences, and as soon as he said that, totally related to that. And I didn't know that's what I was doing, but that's what I did. And then ultimately, I went to FDIC for the first time in 2011, and it's actually in our union's contract that we send 2 members every year to FDIC.
Nice.
And we're going to probably change that to where now there's so many micro conferences that will, maybe send more people to more conferences that are more affordable. But anyways, and I went there, and then that was it, man. That just did it for me. And ever since then, I've been really engaged to it. And I would come back and I would go outside. And this is the advice I have for you all there to get beat down. I would go out back and I would work by myself. I'd throw gear on, I'd throw ladders, I'd do air consumptions. Sometimes when I was, wanting to train on pumping the engine, I'd back the engine out. I'd throw some fog nozzles on the pump panel, put it on a kind of a narrow, wide fog, so I didn't have to pull any lines off the rig. I just, wasn't beating up the asphalt with the smooth bore, so I just had the fogs there, and I would pump pump the engine by myself. I would throw ladders. We didn't have a forcible entry pop at the time, but I would take 2 big exercise tires and I would wedge a Halligan bar between them, and it would weight down the Halligan bar, and I would get on one knee and I would just strike the head of the Halligan bar and practice left hand swing, right hand swing. Well, guess what? one person turned into two, turned into three, and today I'm in a firehouse with 11 people, and I do the training roster every day, so I kind of keep track of how many people work out because we write this down, and I average 8 out of 11.
Nice.
8 out of 11 every day are outside drilling, drilling or working out with me, things like that. So nowadays, fast forward, almost 15 years now, and we're young. We're really young now. So now we've had the opportunity to have positive impressions on these young people. So now this is the culture they know, that we train all the time. Everybody's happy, just good positive attitude. We still have some hiccups and some slumps and things like that, but it's completely different now. And now I can come back and happily pull up a fire video on the day room TV and talk tactics with people and not worry about, well, this ain't Winter Park. Why are we watching this?
Right. Now, Devin Craig said it. We don't do that Yankee stuff here. We're not the FDNY.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure every suburban firefighter has heard that. So, but you can learn a lot from those people. I could tell you that right now. So you just have to know how to pick what's going to work for you or tweak how they do things to fit your staffing and your building response. So sometimes those guys get out and get really big into the way they do it, and they kind of forget about smaller departments and how that's a lot of that's not feasible. But you got to just be good about reading between the lines and taking their stuff and learn from it, because they got a lot of good information.
1,000%. I always like to ask, and I don't know how much of a reader you are, but I always like to ask, is there books that you think, as Eric Wheaton, that firefighters should be reading? It doesn't have to be a firefighter book. It can be any book in the world.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, so one thing is, I'm not a massive reader, but I do read a bit. And it's something I would like to improve on. But again, with small kids and everything and full-time job, and it's tough to find the time. So, but we do, we didn't touch this at all, but I'm extremely passionate about health and fitness, especially in the fire service. My wife is, if she, could go back and choose a different career, she'd definitely be taking a path down that route. She is in the healthcare field, but so thank God for her and steering me that direction. But one book, it's more of a textbook style that I've been reading and I reread often, is Becoming a Supple Leopard. Funny title.
Becoming say that again?
Supple Leopard.
Supple?
Yep.
Okay.
Leopard.
Okay.
So it's by Dr. Kelly Starrett, and it's basically a full movement full movement book. It's a textbook. So it's a book that you're going to reread and reread. And, right now we have several people out on workers' comp and just job-related injuries and things like that. Not to say, some of these better movement practices would have, for sure prevented some of their injuries.
Right.
But it wouldn't have helped. And it's a movement book. So how to move properly, how to lift weight properly, how to recover properly, how mobilities, obviously a term that's thrown around a lot now, but, doing mobility workouts and things like that to prevent injury, but not only prevent injury, when you're injured, also speed up recovery.
Right.
So, that's a cool book if you want something totally left field, non-related to the fire service, but if you think about it, it actually is, right? We're a physical job, and if, this is the best asset that our departments have is our skin, our people, right? So if we keep them healthy and keep them riding on the rigs, then that's a successful department. If you have a department, especially my size, with a lot of people getting injured or that are unhealthy and not performing well, it doesn't matter how pretty your tow truck is, right?
No doubt about it, man. No, and I look forward to adding that to the suggested reading for the scrap, is the Becoming a Supple Leopard. So, like you said, funny title. That one's not been suggested before.
Yeah, I busted out at the Firehouse a few times and maybe got a few jokes.
No, absolutely. Okay, so on the weekly scrap, we have a thing we do every week. It's called the 5 Questions for Firefighters. The questions and the answers are 100% up to you and your opinion. There is no right or wrong answers, technically. The points are assigned by me, and they're completely arbitrary. So, Eric Wheaton, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so here we go. I always get made fun of because I've only asked them 90 times and I have to pull them up.
You just got to read them.
What is, this question number 1, the number 1 issue facing the modern fire service?
Man, I could do 2 come to the top of my head right away. One, I know you asked for 1, but I'll kind of breeze over 1 and maybe dive into another one. But the one is a society issue, and that is just the metabolic derangement that happens in society right now. So I'm going really different than probably a lot of your
I want to hear this clarified. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, and this is the one I'll just kind of breeze over because we can go down crazy talks with this, but just the unhealthiness of America in general. And, people want to put the firefighters like we're in our own little bubble, right?
So are you saying we're physically, physically unhealthy?
Physically,
Okay.
No, physically. Yes, sorry, physically unhealthy, and we'll kind of clarify anything like that. But oftentimes we put ourselves in this bubble, like we're only the fire service is only affected by this. But if you actually look outside the walls, your neighbors are affected by this, right? So the entire country, the entire world is affected by this. So I would like to again see our departments invest in our health and fitness a lot more, because again, if we're our skin, our people are what makes the fire service the fire service. And if we're unhealthy and if we're getting injured and we're sick and we're killing ourselves and all these things that we can improve on, then we're no good as emergency responders. So I would like to see the improvement on the seriousness on our wellness and our exercising routines and basically and change our health. I mean, we're as a society we're getting sick. I mean, I would like to see some improvement with that. I think that is a thing that's going to affect us and society in general for a long time.
And I want to interrupt you and say, just before you get to that's the one you're glossing over, but I want to say like 20 years ago, we didn't have special straps and tools to go and pick up our patients. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's something that's coming along, so no, that's spot on, dude. I've not heard that.
No, and just the way we eat. And I mean, again, this is something that my wife, I wish she was sitting right next to me because she could talk, for hours about this stuff. She is extremely well on eating, and where this came from is her mom had some cancer, right? So had cancer years ago, and so she decided to get genetic testing herself. Realized she has this genetic deformity called Lynch Syndrome. Basically, what it is, and really everybody has, or not everybody, but a lot of people have mutated genes that if you don't control outside habits, that these genes could mutate and become cancerous, or could cause you to have type 2 diabetes, or could cause you to have high blood pressure. And if we can do things to limit the exposure to having these genes mutate, then your chances of maintaining a good healthy state are greatly increased. So just for instance, shopping the perimeter of the grocery store would be one advice I would give anybody if they want to change. No, you don't have to go on any fancy diet. If you literally just stay to the perimeter of the grocery store, you're going to have your good carbs, your good fats, and your good protein.
Wow.
Everything on the center aisle is all processed foods. Just think about that. If it has a ingredients list, more than people say, I think it's like more than 3 or 5 ingredients, it's not food, right? And then exercising routinely, just moving. You don't have to do CrossFit, although obviously I enjoy CrossFit. I think it's a great methodology, but just getting off the couch and just moving, just do something better than yesterday, right? So that would be one thing.
I love it.
If you want to just stick with that, and I won't even mention the next one.
100% your answer. So you already got. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. The other one would just be the closed-mindedness of the fire service. Just for instance, you watch a video online and the need to say something. You know,
Yeah.
like just look at something and, hey, that's stupid, or maybe it works for them. It's not gonna work for me, but guess what? I can just keep scrolling.
I don't
or
have
just
to give
turn
my
off the
opinion.
phone. I don't have to give my opinion because it doesn't help anything. You're not gonna win anything. Just let it go. And I used to, you know, just like a lot of us, when social media was kind of new in the fire service, we get on there and we battle, and then it's just like, oh man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'll make that one my quick one, and then the health one, the long one.
Dude,
so
the metabolic derangement. Metabolic derangement. I've given you max points just for saying metabolic derangement, and then you made an Elsa quote and said, let it go. So bottom line is you got max points on question number 1. So we'll move to question number 2. What is the thing you are most excited about for the future of firefighting?
All right, so that one would definitely be the conferences popping up, because, like I said earlier, that's what saved me, was going to conferences, and saved me just, you know, making me, instead of dabbling my toe into something like I typically don't, it made me be all in. And the lifestyle I have, the wife, you know, that I have, literally everything is because of the fire service now. And you know, it's the conferences are there, and now they're more accessible because the price is a lot lower than what it used to be. And, you know, there's state conferences everywhere.
Accessibility,
now you don't even have to leave your state, and they're popping up almost every weekend. And I think that is awesome. And for anyone in listening in that has a you know, fire service, ebbs and flows, right? And if you're in that lull right now, I highly recommend you attending a fire conference. And when you come back, you're more than likely going to get beat down, but, you know, go outside, work by yourself, control you. And then when the next fire conference shows up, you're going to attend that one. And then soon you're going to be on a huge positive path. And then guess what? Next time you come back from the conference, there's going to be 2 of you guys out there drilling or working out or doing something, watching videos and training, things like that. And it's just going to build from there.
I don't say this lightly.
So
That may be that last little 30-second bit may be some of the best advice ever given on the scrap. And I don't say that lightly. So
it worked for me, man. And I appreciate anybody who works hard putting on a conference, big or small. Thank you. And I'm speaking for a lot of people. I know that you guys, the hard work it's paying off.
No, dude, I'm telling you this right now. Get out of your bubble and go find those oxidizers that are out there that will fan your flame. I went down last week to I'm wearing their shirt tonight, if I can go the right direction. Frontier Fools Tactics on Tap. Nice. They had a class last week. Bears of the Oath. I love supporting people the Shane Bentley and those guys, Eddie Steele. Man, guys, now you got me preaching, so I'm going to quit. Let's go to question 3.
No, you're good, man.
Best rank or position to be in the fire service?
Yikes. All right, so my dad was always big on me doing all of them, never jumping positions. So I was a fireman and a driver and now a company officer. So I kind of I feel like, you know, everyone's screaming at the screen right now and telling me I have to say a Tillerman. But actually, you know, a company officer, man. Just you're at that management level where you're still running calls, you're still getting your gear dirty. You get to make decisions, which kind of goes back to why my really close second choice would have been an outside truck member, because I never wanted to be that firefighter that had to be glued to the officer, and that officer didn't trust me enough to kind of break away and make my own decisions. And thankfully, my first truck company lieutenant, who's now my battalion, really allowed me to be free and make my decisions and learn. I learned a lot that way. So, but as a company officer now, you get to build a team. You know, you get to watch each other. You know, we're growing together, we're learning together. You know, you get to make the decisions, which I enjoy the challenge of decision making. And then, you know, you have that first step of formal, what am I kind of lost for words, but where you basically have a little bit more formal impact on the department.
Right.
So my department right now, we're like writing SOGs. As a firefighter, I would have loved to write all our firefighting SOGs. Well, they weren't going to give me the time to do that, but now I get to, be involved with that. I get to be involved with training more formally. I get to build fire trucks and be on spec committees, which I have a huge passion in. And, that company officer role, you have that ability, at least in my size department, to kind of be that person that does those kind of things that I enjoy. So,
well, if you know me, company officer is the only correct answer. So you got max points again.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's why I didn't pick any of the outside members. I wanted max points.
No, absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%. Now, people have heard me preach on it over and over, so I won't even belabor the point.
Was it Brush that said training officer, though? Somebody said training chief.
Someone said training chief recently. Who was that went
I think it might have been Brush, but when I listened to that one, and I can't remember who it was, but
I think it was a 3-point firefighter. You got me.
Yeah,
Jake Barnes. Jake Barnes threw that at me.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
That was a good answer because you really influence a lot. I know the training officer, my job influences a lot, so that would be
absolutely.
A cool position to have.
Man, when you're sold out and you are the training officer, yes, it can be such a massive. So I'm not. Again, I do belabor the point. Company officer is the thing I enjoyed the most, and I connected with my guys, and so to me, it's a.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm biased, and we don't have bendy trucks in my city, so. All right. Best advice you have ever received. Question number 4.
All right. This one here, I got a few of them. And one was probably my first advice that I remember as a kid. And I want to say I was probably about 10 years old.
Okay.
And back then in my age, in my town I grew up in, roller skating was a big thing. And I would roller skate like hell at the skating rink all the time, right?
I like it.
And this is where it's going. Well, hockey tryouts posted at this rink. And I don't even think I owned inline skates at the time. I just had like the quad skates, but I could skate really well. My sister was a really good skater. And the hockey coach approached me and was like, hey, I want you to come try out for the hockey team. And I'm like, I don't know shit about hockey, dude. He's like, I don't care. You can skate well. I want you to show up to the tryouts. So I told my mom. She went and bought me some used hockey gear that probably that week sometime. I show up to the tryouts and I had a left-handed stick. I didn't even know there was a right and left-handed stick.
Right on.
The curve of my stick went the wrong way.
The wrong direction.
So there he is. He's like, I show up, I'm in all this used gear and the wrong stick. And, I get through tryouts with the gear I had, and he pulls me aside. He said, I want you on my team. And he's like, you know why? Because you got heart, and I could tell you're coachable. And I said, okay, I'll be on the team. And it wasn't until later on in life that advice I would think about constantly when I want to think about it on the job now, where I'm in an instructor role or company officer role, and maybe I have somebody assigned to me that isn't the best skill level right now, but when I'm eating lunch and they're out back in their gear in 100% humidity and 100-degree weather in Florida, and they're trying their hardest to throw a 24-foot ladder, spike a 24-foot ladder on the concrete, then I can respect that they have heart. If you know every skill and every job in the fire department and you show up with a poor attitude and you have no heart or no drive to get better, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't care how good you are. I'd rather work with the guy that doesn't have much skill set, maybe not much life experience, but has heart and drive, because I can work with that. And actually I enjoy that because I enjoy training alongside people like that. So, having heart, that means something to me. And then 2 advice my dad gave me as a firefighter: no matter what position, always check the rig. No matter what position you're riding, always check the rig.
That is solid.
And because of that advice, I know my rigs that I was assigned to were really at the Firehouse extremely well, because as, say, a firefighter, the driver would be checking their compartment, and I'd come right behind them, open compartment, and check the exact same compartment. I'd even check the spare SC base cylinder to make sure it was full. And at first he's like, hey, dude, I just checked that. And it's like, oh, I know. My dad drilled it in my head that always check the rig, and I just want to know. And now if something's out of place or missing, I know it just like that. And that's been huge advice for me into the job, once I got onto the job. And the last one I'll talk about, also my dad, was treat every run as if it was a fire and wear your gear properly. And he had a Mayday call out on himself during a fire alarm. So they went to a nursing home, and this was in 2000. And they were about ready to leave, about ready to wrap it up, and one of the workers said, hey, there's smoke in the kitchen. So they obviously were probably a little lazy and didn't check the whole building. And so they had partial gear on and go in. Sure enough, there's smoke in the kitchen. So They step out of the kitchen. He puts his mask on, doesn't hook his chin strap up, and doesn't put his hood up. Goes to this cabinet that underneath has a little bit of fire going on. He realizes that it's really just some smoldering rags right under a sink. He takes these rags, turns on the sink, and it's literally, very minor, right? Nothing, no craziness of this, and is going to put them into the sink. Well, there's these rags, were stored under butane can, or stored on top of butane cans. And as soon as they got enough oxygen, all these canisters blew up in his face. Oof. Big fireball, catches himself on fire. His helmet goes flying. His head's on fire. The lieutenant loses his helmet. The lieutenant drags my dad out of this kitchen, beats his head on fire, calls Mayday on the radio. The battalion chief, who's actually my father-in-law now, side note, he's like half sleeping, 2:00 in the morning, and the buggy gets woken up because we're on a fire alarm, and all of a sudden, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Right.
And my dad had third-degree burns on his entire head and neck area and ears, especially, where basically anywhere his mask wasn't, your mask couldn't touch. And the doctors basically said, hey, if you didn't have your mask on and you would have inhaled that, it probably would have been a different story. And just ever since then, he's just every call, make sure you think of it as a fire and, wear your gear properly. And that's
how old were you on that one? Were you alive yet at that one, or was that before you? Or?
Yeah, that was in 2000. I was, 2000, I would have been a freshman in high school.
Okay. So did that have an impact on
35.
you, or not till later?
Oh yeah. About joining the fire service, or just
in general, all of it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I never wanted to be a firefighter at all. Like, no matter, even that point, I had no interest in it at all. Again, surfing consumed my life, and I didn't know what I was going to do. But I remember the nurse coming for 6 months at my house, and my dad sitting on the table, the kitchen table, and he doesn't drink liquor. He drinks beer, he doesn't drink liquor, and he would take a shot like whiskey or whatever it was back then, and he would the nurse would scrub his ears, and he would scream in this pain. And yeah, it was gnarly. And I remember getting a phone or getting pulled out of school, or when that happened, or where was it? I was out of town or something. I remember getting some sort of phone call. So it was 2:00 in the morning when it happened. So I must not have been in school, but I was away from the house, and I freaked out, because all you hear is your dad was in a fire accident. And my exposure to the fire service, besides hang out in the firehouse, is movies, and when bad things happen to firemen in movies, it's not good, right?
Right.
So I remember being pretty hysterical and getting home and then realizing that it was just he was lucky, and it was just burns to his head, but something now. And we already had a culture in our department, like fire alarms, you'll see, even though we send basically a full time, everybody's dressed out, which he just didn't fully encapsulate himself when there was a smoke condition.
That's a powerful lesson, man. It only takes once, Yep. You can do it 1,000 times. It only takes once. No, that's awesome, man. All three of those are awesome. Great. Yeah. Hard to knock. I'm trying to remember. We're on number 5. This might be the biggest no-brainer in the history of the 5 questions for firefighters as we come to number 5. As I asked the owner of Vent Inner Search if there's heavy fire and searchable space, would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES? So surprise me or confirm. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, man. I thought about this one, and I feel like VES is like the gimme answer, and yeah, and that's fine. But God, I got to go with my wheelhouse, man. I got to go with the VES. Just that's been my career, experience and training and just my wheelhouse. And I feel like if I want to make the biggest impact on that scene there, that's probably the position that I would choose then. I'd give it to my best friend who's the engine officer. I'd let him take the hose line.
There you go. Brother, I love it. I love all 5 answers. I will say this. I think you hit max points on everything according to me, which is arbitrary. And I try not to make it gimmies, okay? So this really is something you should be proud of. I don't know how many have hit all 5 max points. I'm going to hit you with a couple things from people here because Rob Fisher said, Corley, I almost want to call BS on Eric. Hockey in Florida. Laugh out loud. And so
it was roller hockey.
Tony had your back. He said, we call it street hockey. So field hockey, whatever.
I actually played all the way up to high school. So that was probably the longest team sport I played.
That's the sports. That's where all the sports analogies come from.
Yeah.
Stephen Negley said, it's okay. We all know the truth. You want the knob.
Yeah, he's the guy that runs the Orlando Fire Conference.
Right on.
Really, him and his brother were a big reason why I got into teaching, and they were the first conference I went to, and that's actually where the CAN class started and everything. So, Steve's a great guy. So
absolutely.
Yeah, he knows probably where my heart really is. I just can't admit it publicly.
No, that's fair. That's honest. That's awesome. Brother, where can people reach out? I mean, obviously, VentInterSearch.com. But go ahead. Book a class. Reach out to Eric. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, obviously, VentInterSearch.com, Instagram, social media, my personal page, Eric Wheaton, or CanManFF on Instagram. We got, summer slows down for us as far as the travel and teaching gig goes. Just, we like to take summers off a little bit. Plus the weather locally here is just not really conducive to a lot of live fire training, which a lot of our classes are. But I'm leaving next week for an aerial class in Jeffersonville, Indiana. And then after that, we will be going to the Lake of the Ozarks conference in Missouri. I think we're doing a VS class. I believe sold out. So
very
that's
nice.
Awesome there. Yeah, doing a hands-on class there. After that, Water on the Fire in August, you can find us. And so CFT, obviously a great time up there. And then October, we have the Mahi Fire Conference and Fireground Commander Conference in Virginia.
Badass, man. I'm gonna see you at Lake of the Ozarks as a student. I'm not sure if I'm in your class or not, and then I'll see you at Water on the Fire. So,
cool.
No, yeah, absolutely excellent, man. Perfect.
Yeah, good time.
Housekeeping on my end. Let me see. Honor the Fallen Fire Conference. It is coming up June. We're 25 days away from today. 25, 26, and 27th of this month in Oklahoma. Moore, Oklahoma, my hometown, where I ride a rig. Come and catch it. There are 8 unbelievable speakers coming in to do 2 days of lectures, 1 day of hot classes. I think there's 7 spots left in the hot classes. They haven't sold out yet, but there's 7 spots left. Bears of the Oath. They are doing the tool track there, and that's the spots that are left. Other than that, go to Facebook, find Honor the Fallen Fire Conference. 100% of the proceeds from that conference are going to the families of fallen firefighters. There is no money being made on it. Every speaker, every training cadre is donating their time 100%. My new addiction is Taylor's Tins, and I love these things. So Next Rung, this is a big thing. Blake Stinnett himself is coming down to the Honor the Fallen Fire Conference. He is going to give the height speech on day 2, as well as talk about Next Rung briefly while he's there. And there is the one Taylor made for the actual conference itself, man. I'm so proud of it. That cat is amazing in the work he does. So that's it, guys. we got another scrap in the books, number 90, with Mr. 6'4", surfer tan, blonde dude, Eric Wheaton, VES man himself. Brother, I had a blast.
Yeah, man, it's a good time. Appreciate you having me.
I'm pretty sure everybody here had a blast. Great job, Eric. Next rung, go Bruins, black and gold until I'm dead and cold. I don't know if that's a hockey reference of some sort.
Yeah, it is.
John Lockwood said, spoken like a true pro, Eric. Great show. Great job, fellas. Lots. Yes, absolutely, guys. Thank you all. Tons of hype coming in here. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Eric, it was everything I was dreaming it would be when I finally got you on here. I tried to get you in here a couple times to fill in, and it was great.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks again.
To everybody tuning in, I hope the tone stays silent unless it's burning. Everybody stay safe out there. Thank you, guys.